Have you ever looked at God and said, "What are you doing?" You know, you may say, "Yeah, Jim, I do that every day when I get up and look at social media." Well, you know, you're not the first, and you're not the last, and you're certainly not alone. But there's a guy in the Bible who did that. And the funny thing is, God answered him and kind of told him exactly what he was doing. So what we're going to do over the next 3 weeks is take a look at the story of Habbakuk. And we'll start here in a few minutes. But right now I want to welcome you to Bay West Church. I'm Jim Campbell, lead pastor here at Bay West. I want to thank you so much for joining us online this morning. Before we get to worshiping with our worship team here in a few minutes, I want to give you a couple things. If you're a parent and you during this time of stay at home, you need some help discipling your child or would like some activity for your kids this summer, you could definitely jump into our Bay West Kids Zone Facebook page. Be a part of that group. Just search it, apply to it, and we'll let you in. And we have curriculum that we upload videos for your kids and some discussion questions to help you kind of process those with your kids so you can disciple your kids while you're at home. If you would like to be part of a life group, that's always a great time to join. But today, we have them all over the place. We have some that are meeting together. We have some that are meeting solely online. Some that are meeting with kind of a modified setup outside, different things like that. So if you would like to be a part of that, just go to baywestchurch.com/groups and click join a group, and you can find your particular group there. If you would like to give online your tithes and offerings, you can always do that from the give link, which is around the interface here that you're watching, or at baywestchurch.com. On our front page, just click the word that says give. And you can always look at my sermon notes and follow them along when I start teaching here in a few minutes. But right now, let's worship God together.
You unravel me with a melody. You surround me with the song of deliverance from my enemies, till all my fears are gone. I'm no longer a slave to fear, for I am child of God. I'm no longer a slave to fear, for I am child of God. From my mother's womb, you have chosen me. Love has called my name. I've been born again in your family. Your blood flows through my veins. I'm no longer a slave to fear, for I am child of God. I'm no longer a slave to fear, no, for I am child of God. I'm no longer split the sea so I could walk right through it. My fears were drowned in perfect love. You rescued me so I can stand and see that I am a child of God. That I am a child of God. That I am a child of God. Oh, that I am a child of God. I'm no longer a slave to fear, for I am a child of God. I'm no longer a slave to fear, for I am a child of God. For I am a child of God. Oh, for I am a child.
What are you doing, God? You know, I honestly, looking at our world right now, I don't see how you can have any other question sometimes. You know, when you look from COVID-19 to the racial unrest and the injustice that sparked the unrest, that it exists anyway. When you think of all the things that are going on nationally in our country, from the economy to, you know, wearing masks to the pandemic across our world, sometimes you really can. I know Katie and I, we've just kind of looked at each other and said, what is God doing with all of this? You know, sometimes it's difficult, you know, looking at that. And there's already stuff on top of that. That's big things. But, you know, in each of our lives individually, there are big things. You know, we're all going through stuff at different times. You may be looking at this person and going, why is this person who seems so ungodly? Why are they succeeding when I'm failing? Why is this person who's so good going through a hard time? Why is there injustice? Why is there crime? Why is there abuse? Why is there human trafficking? All of these things that are so harsh. God, what are you doing? If you're there, step up. Sometimes you can feel that way. And there was a guy in the Bible, his name was Habbakuk. And over this series for the next few weeks, we're going to take a look at his story, because he went to God and said, hey, what's going on? And God answered him and gave us a lot of wisdom for us today. Let me tell you a little bit about the history of Habbakuk. Here's a little bit what we know about him. He's one of the minor prophets. There's 12 prophets in the Old Testament, and they are known as the minor prophets. They each have their own book in our Bible, but in the Hebrew Scriptures, they're all lumped into one. It's called the 12 or the prophets. And it's not because they're less important than the major prophets. It's because all their books, their letters, their stories are really short compared to the major prophets like Isaiah, Jeremiah, those type of guys. Even the longest book is much shorter. It's only like 14 chapters than the major prophets there. So that's why they're kind of lumped in together. It was written about 600 years ago. We don't really know that much about Habbakuk personally. We know he may have been a temple musician, but past that, you know, not a whole lot. But we do know one thing. He had a big question of God, and he modeled a conversation. He had a conversation with God that was very enlightening for all of us, and I think extremely timely for today. So I want to write this about. Let's talk about this story of Habbakuk. You know, it's important to realize his name actually means to wrestle, and that's what we're kind of going to do in this story of Habbakuk, is wrestle with God over some difficult things that Habbakuk had to deal with that translate to you and I today. Let's start in chapter 1, verse 2, and we're going to kind of jump in here, and you'll see why I say this is really applicable for today. Verse 2 says, "How long, O Lord, must I call for help, but you do not listen? Violence is everywhere, I cry, but you do not come to save. Must I forever see these evil deeds? Why must I watch all this misery? Wherever I look, I see destruction and violence. I'm surrounded by people who love to argue and fight. The law has become paralyzed, and there's no justice in the courts. The wicked far outnumber the righteous, so that justice has become perverted. Wow. If you could take some scripture from the Bible and just drop it down on our time right now, I think you could take those verses and every one of them would apply to every one of us. When we look at social media and we see the injustice here and the injustice there, and how could that person treat this person like this? Oh, this person is corrupt. And oh, do you see that? When you look at your news and you hear what's going on in some places in America, when you see injustice happen to people in America, when you look in Rwanda, there's a genocide going on of Christians down there. It's amazing that the horrific things that are happening all over our country and our world, even China with the Uyghur people and how they're being treated. It's just amazing that we can be so cruel. When we think about that, we think about the racial injustice in our society. We think about abortion, which is a horrific event that we perpetrate on the weakest all the time. It's the worst case of bullying ever. The strong always dominates the weak, and the weak dies every time. It's difficult. When you think about political stuff, you look at all the political unrest and the angry stuff. You want to get in a fight, start talking about politics somewhere. Everybody comes to, especially on social media, my goodness, you bring out something right there, everybody already has their opinion. They don't want to debate. They just want to sit there and they have pre-made insults, and they're going to slam each other back and forth. And it seems like we make no headway. You think about the crime that's going on in our country. And all that was going on before we had COVID-19. Wow. There's just so much stuff going on. And you think about the shutdown, our economy. Was it the right thing? Was it the wrong thing? Was it a pandemic or a plandemic? And the whole world is conspiracizing about what is happening now. What's the big plan that's taking us out? And a lot of times, that's how we feel, and this was exactly how Habbakuk felt. He's like, God, what are you doing? Are you going to do anything? Well, really, when you look at his complaint, it kind of breaks down into three ways. The first thing about his complaint is really, hey, are you listening, God? Because you don't seem to be. I'm crying out to you. When are you going to come and do something? I remember a lot of times with my kids, when they were younger, sometimes maybe your kids are this way, when your child calls out for you, and maybe you're in the middle of something, or you're preoccupied, or you're doing something, and they don't hear you respond, and they call back to you like, hey, what are you doing? Hey, you didn't answer me. Sometimes that's difficult, but that's exactly how we can be with God. We call out to God, and we go, hey, if he doesn't answer immediately, we think, hey, you're just not listening. But the truth is that sometimes God can be kind of like that situation for us. It's not that he's not listening. Sometimes he's waiting until he can give us the most valuable response, the most accurate response. Sometimes, when your kids call out to you for something, the answer you give them at that moment won't mean nearly as much as it would in 5 minutes, because you're waiting on a piece of information. You're waiting for a certain thing to happen. You're waiting for something to come down that'll affect the situation, so that you can give them something more complete. Maybe you have something in line that's coming. Maybe your kid goes, hey, will you buy me a PlayStation? And their birthday is next week, and you've already bought them a PlayStation, and you're like, I don't want to tell you anything right now, because I either tell you no, because I'm not going to buy you a PlayStation, or I have to tell you yes, because I already bought you a PlayStation, and ruin your surprise next week. So I'm just not going to say anything at all. Sometimes God's in that type of situation. Sometimes there's no answer to give, because it would take too long to explain it. It would take too long to go through it. There have been times that, my kids have asked me questions when they were younger. And and in my wisdom and intelligence, I'm like, I'm going to just show you the whole thing. And I just start, well, back in the beginning of time, and I start rolling through the whole enchilada of the answer to their question about something. And they're like 30 seconds in, they're like, no, that's all right. I don't need that. And the answer just takes too long to share. And, a lot of times it's like that with God. I mean, you think about it. I mean, you're like, yeah, I want to know how God created life. Really? Do you? How God did stuff? Can you even realize, can we even fathom how long it would take God to break it down to our terms to understand how he did stuff? I can show you how that is. It takes a long time because it's happening all the time. What do you think science is? Science is God working through us, showing us as we learn what he did and how he did stuff. And after thousands of years of studying what God's done, we still have barely scratched the surface in the world that we have. See, God's teaching us all the time. Sometimes it just takes too long to explain. But not only that, but Habbakuk had another part of his complaint was this: look, if you're listening, are you going to do something? He's saying, look, he said, must I forever see these evil deeds? Sometimes it's like, any day now, please start, and you may have been struggling in a situation. You may be in a situation right now that's really tough and you don't understand what God is doing, where you are. It seems so unfair. It seems so wrong. Maybe you're just like Habbakuk and you're just going, look, any day now, come on. I know with my kids sometime, when they were younger, you ride in a car and you got an hour to get there, but in, 15 minutes, it's like, when are we going to get there? Because it's just taking too long. Sometimes that's cute as a child, and we all were like that. I would do that to my parents as well. But the truth is that's a principle that carries with us into adulthood, because there are always things that are going longer than what we think they should. It's tough. And he's saying, look, hey, are you going to do anything? And then the third part of his complaint is this. It says, look, what you're doing isn't working. Have you ever felt that? I've been in situations similar as a parent and as a child of my folks. This is really a parent-child kind of illustration, but, it may be in a situation where a toy is broken. And your kid wants you to fix your toy, and instead of fixing the toy, you start walking out to the garage because you have to get some glue and you have to come mix it up, you have to set it and find a way to do all this stuff, and it has to dry overnight and all stuff. You know that in your head. It says, hey, will you fix that toy? And you say, sure, no problem, and you start heading out to the garage. Well, to them, you're like, hey, my toy's still broke, and you're walking away. What are you doing? That's not fixing my toy. And they're right. At the moment, it's not, because it's a whole lot more complicated than just going, boom, you're fixed. And I think that's where we find ourselves with God so many times, because a lot of the things that he's planning to fix have a much longer fix time than we're willing to accept. And they involve a multi-step process, many of which don't look like they're even addressing the issue. But he's got to take us one place before he can get us to another. And I think that's kind of part of the place where Habbakuk was. I think that's some of where he was. He's like, hey, hey, are you listening? Because it doesn't sound like it. Are you going to do anything? If you are listening, will you do anything? And if you're doing something, do something different, because it's just not working, because this is a mess. And I think we can all relate to that at times. But here's the cool thing. God responds to him. He says, okay, let's talk about this. And in verse 5, he says this. He says, the Lord replied, look around at all the nations. Look and be amazed. He's like, sit up, man. Here it comes. You ready? You want to know? Look around all over. You ready? Here it is. I want you to look. I'm going to blow your mind. You're going to be so blown away with what I tell you. And he goes on and says this. He says, for I am doing something in your own day, something you wouldn't even believe if someone told you about it. In other words, God looks at him and he says, look, you won't believe it, but I'll tell you anyway. It's going to blow your mind. It's going to drive you nuts. He said, check this out. Get ready for it. Here it comes. And he says, for I am raising up, drum roll, The Babylonians. What is got to be what's going on in Habakkuk's mind? Because you got to understand something. The Babylonians and God, they don't really go together. They are, you got to see how God describes them right here. Look how God describes the Babylonians. He's going along and says, okay, you're not going to hurt us. Look at all the stuff going around. You got to fix it. And God goes, sure, I'm going to blow your mind. This is going to be amazing. I'm raising up the Babylonians. And Habakkuk's like this. Are you kidding me? The Babylonians? And then God goes on. He kind of starts to geek out about the Babylonians. He goes, look, he says, I'm raising up the Babylonians, a cruel and violent people. They will march across the world and conquer other lands. They are notorious for their cruelty and do whatever they like. Their horses are swifter than cheetahs. Man, they're fast. And they're fiercer than wolves at dusk. Their charioteers charge from far away. Like eagles, they swoop down to devour their prey. On they come, all bent on violence. Their hordes advance like a desert wind, sweeping captives ahead of them like sand. They scoff at kings and princes and scorn all their fortresses. They simply pile ramps of earth against their walls and capture them. It says they sweep past like the wind and are gone. But they are deeply guilty because their strength is their God. And Habakkuk's like this. What? You've got to be kidding me. You even admitted that they don't even worship you. Their strength is their own God. What? And he kind of calls God out and says, wait a minute. Oh, whoa, hold up. And he comes back again with a second complaint. He says, look, oh Lord, my God, my Holy One, you who are eternal, surely you do not plan to wipe us out. Because see, what God's saying is, I'm going to raise up the Babylonians and we're going to come kick your rear end because you've been evil. And he's like, wait, yeah, you're right. We're being evil, but they're worse. So you're going to take somebody who's worse than us and come destroy us who are not as bad as those guys. This is harsh. He goes, look, he says, surely you do not plan to wipe us out. O Lord, our rock, you have sent these Babylonians to correct us, to punish us for our many sins. He's admitting, yeah, hey, we've done a lot. But you are pure and cannot stand the sight of evil. Will you wink at their treachery? Should you be silent while the wicked swallow up people more righteous than they? In other words, are you going to send these guys that are way worse than we are to straighten us out? Really? And he goes into this. He says, are we only fish to be caught and killed? Are we only sea creatures that have no leader? Must we be strung up on their hooks and caught in their nets while they rejoice and celebrate? Really? He said, then they will worship their nets and burn incense in front of them. These nets are the gods who have made us rich, they will claim. Will you let them get away with this forever? Will they succeed forever in their heartless conquests? Man, you can just feel the explosion going off in the middle of Habakkuk's life right there. I mean, his mind is blown. When God says this, it totally just, how does this make sense? Wait, you're telling me that you're going to use something that's sinful, that's worse than us to come take care of us who are not as bad as those guys? And certainly, how are you stepping? You should be like taking us to go straighten them out, because it doesn't make sense. His mind was totally blown here. Totally blown. But you have to love what Habakkuk did. You have to love and model what Habakkuk did in this situation. The first thing he did was when he had to complain, he took it straight to God. So many times you and I, we look at the world and we just fuss and complain, and we take it to our friends and we take it to social media and we Facebook all over the place. I'm guilty as much as the next person. We share an article, I can't believe this is happening. Or we talk to our spouse, or we talk to our family, or we talk to whoever. And we go, I can't believe this is happening. This is crazy. And a lot of times we never go to God and we say, God, what are you doing with that? What are you trying to do? Help me here. Understand. But you got to love Habakkuk, because he shows a great principle for us in the way that he addresses his second complaint. I want you to look at these responses. O Lord, my Holy One, you who are eternal, our rock. See, those are faith questions. I'm expressing to you, God, that who I think of you is not about the situation around me. You are who you are, and I recognize that in faith. I know who you are. But at the same time, you have these faith responses. You have the questions. Surely you don't plan to wipe us out. Hey, are you going to wink at their treachery? Is that right? Should you be silent while the wicked swallow up people more righteous than they? Now, of course, you can sit there and debate that all day because, we know from Romans 3:10 that, no one is righteous, not even one. So is anybody really more righteous than anybody else outside of Jesus? I don't know. I don't think that's the case. We can debate that, but you can see the questions here. He says, are we only fish to be caught and killed? In other words, are we not important to you? Are we just your playthings? Do you see what he's saying? Are we only sea creatures that have no leader? Are you not here with us? What's going on? It's a hard place to be Habbakuk in Habakkuk's time. And you know what? It can be a hard time to be you and me in our time as well. But I want to show you something that Habakkuk just demonstrated, a principle that's extremely important. In whatever search of faith you're in, whether you're a Christ follower or whether you're just kind of seeing what Jesus is about, or you're wondering, what Habakkuk shows us is you don't have to abandon your questions to have faith. And you don't have to abandon your faith to have questions. See, sometimes we look at church and we look at the Bible and we look at God and we believe, yes we do. But God knows that he hasn't given us all the information of everything that's ever going to happen and ever has and how it all ties together. One, because it would just blow our minds. He can handle all that. We can't. God realizes that we're going to have questions, and you got to love what faith says is, I believe it will work out, even if I don't understand how it will, because I believe in you, God. That's a faith response. See, faith isn't a belief in the absence of questions. Faith is a belief in the presence of questions. And if you're going to follow Christ, if you're going to follow God, you need to get used to not understanding it all. And I say you need to get to a comfort level with that because you need to be able to take that directly to God. I love Habakkuk's response after this. In verse 1 of chapter 2, it says, I will climb up to my watchtower and stand my guard post. There I will wait to see what the Lord says and how he will answer my complaint. In other words, he's saying, look, I'm going to climb up. I'm going to do what you told me to do, God. I'm going to stand my ground. I'm going to stand on my guard post. I'm going to look out, like you said, look on the nations. I'm going to look out expecting an answer from you, God, because it's coming. That's a faith response. So many times we are hit with questions of God and we go, okay, well, if you can't answer this question, God, then I'm not going to believe in you. And God's like, look, it would take like 5 of your lifetimes to answer that question for you. You can't even remotely comprehend what I'm trying to do here. This is only a small part. And it seems so huge to us, and it is. It is. It is ground shaking for us. And God knows that. But he wants us to respond in faith to him. And that's what Habakkuk does. When we respond to God, when we see that, the faith response is, look, I don't get it, but I'm following you anyway. I'm exercising faith because what you said, what you are is right. I believe in you so much, I'm going to trust what you're doing. I mean, when you're in a place where your mind is blown, when you're in a place where you don't understand, when you're looking around at social media and you're looking around at the news and you're looking around at the economy and you're looking around at your bank account and you're looking around maybe at your health and you're going across your neighbor across the street, they've got cancer, but they're great people. I don't understand why that's happening. Then you've got these other folks down the street that are just so mean and nasty and ugly and mean, and they seem to be prospering, and you're doing, I don't understand it. I'm just telling you, even in the last week or two, there's a friend that I talked to that I care very deeply about, who used to be in ministry and was an incredible, minister, and is out of ministry right now. And a big part of the journey that led him to why he's out is because everywhere he went, people were just horrible to him. And there have been times in this journey as I've walked through this with him over the last 20 years or so, that I personally, I know he has, but I've sat there in my prayer time and looked up, God, what are you doing? This guy's amazing. What's wrong with these people? Why are they doing this to him? You can be in the questioning spots, but the point to make is that I wrestle with God, and Habbakuk is wrestling with God, and that's what you and I are to do. When you have the question and you're in that position, when you're in chapter 1 of Habbakuk and it's crazy, you grab hold and you say, God, show me what is right. You wrestle with him. In Mark 9, there's a story about a man who had a son who was with an evil spirit. And this man had gone to all the doctors. He'd gotten all the treatment. He'd gone to all the faith healers. He'd gone to everything he could. And his son was still messed up. No one could fix it. And he comes to Jesus. And he goes, hey, can you heal my son? And Jesus, he's like, sure, I can do it. No problem. I can handle it. If you believe, all things are possible. He said, look, I believe. I need you to help where I don't believe. I believe, but I need you to help with my unbelief. Sometimes that's where we are. God, I believe in you. But man, there's these doubts that keep cropping up, and I need you to step in and help because I can't overcome the doubts on my own. I can't do it. I need you to help with my unbelief. And you got to love what Jesus did. Help with your unbelief? No problem. And he healed his son. You see, often God takes our crisis of belief as an opportunity for the creation of belief to happen in you. See, that man, he needed to go to all these places and see all these things that wouldn't work and languish and, no, this can't work and this can't work. No one can do this. No one. I have no hope. God is my only hope. And at that last point, he goes to God and says, this is my only hope. You're it. Can you do it? And Jesus is like, I can help your unbelief. Because at that moment, he realized the power of God and the uniqueness of Jesus. And what happened was he was believing here, which was better than a lot of us, because he went to Jesus. But after Jesus helped his unbelief, it jumped up to there. Because see, God took that crisis of belief and used it as an opportunity for the creation of belief, for the growth of belief. And you got to love Habbakuk. He says, look, I'm standing my post. When you don't understand, look, when you don't get it, you hold on tighter and you wrestle it out with God, because in faith you trust that he will answer. It's like a parent, the best answer he can give you. James 1:5 tells us, if any of you lacks wisdom, you should ask God, who gives generously to all without finding fault, and it will be given to you. Now you're like, awesome. So I'm going to just go to God and he's going to fix it. Man, I can't wait to come back next week because we'll get a happy ending and he's going to wrap it up in chapter 2. Nope. I'm sorry. You may find out in chapter 2 of next week that it actually gets a little bit worse with God's response. this is one of those times that you look at the Bible and you go, you know what? It actually lends credence to it being real, because if you're creating a fake religion and a story about this almighty God, you would probably not put what we're going to talk about next week in the Bible. You would wrap it up with a happy ending, and it'd be awesome, and that's how you do it. But honestly, that's not what's there. And that's not reality, but next week is very worth it. I heard Craig Groeschel from Life Church kind of put it this way. In chapter 1, you're wondering. In chapter 2, you're waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. Spinning wheel on your computer, yes. But in chapter 3 of the story of Habbakuk, you need to go through 2 to get to 3, because while you were wondering in chapter 1, waiting in chapter 2, in chapter 3, you come to a place where you worship God, not because of what's all around you, because of who you realize he truly is. The truth is that some of you out there might be in chapter 1 right now. You might be, God, what are you doing? You may be a Christ follower. And I want to tell you something. Look, don't ever hide your questions from God. A lot of times we can think, I want God to know that I'm worried about this. I don't want God to know that I'm concerned. I don't see how that really works out. I don't really want God to know that I'm having a problem dealing with this. Let me tell you something. The only person that can help you believe and that can increase your faith is God. And God doesn't stand out there and go, man, I can't believe they don't believe. God is sitting there going, look, I know what you're going through, and I want to help you through it. That's why this is a relationship and not just here's a key, open the door and keep going. He's saying, look, I want to be the one that walks with you through this because I know how it is. I'm the only one. God is the only one who knows how tough it is for you right now. And he wants to walk with you through it. Don't you dare hide a question from him. Don't abate it. Don't truncate it. Don't do any of that. You tell him everything. And you do like Habbakuk and say, I'm going to stand my ground and I'm going to look for the answer expectantly because you believe it's coming. Now maybe you're out there and you just kind of tuned in. You maybe saw the video on social media or something and you said, okay, that's interesting. I see it. All the times look bad. What is God going to do with all this stuff? I don't get it. Maybe that's you. Today is what I want to ask you to do is I want you to do the same. You may not have a relationship with God, but I want you to take your questions to him. I want you to go to him and ask him, how are you doing this thing? Lord, you may even say, look, I don't really even believe. I'm willing to believe, but I need you to help me believe. I want to tell you as a pastor, there are times that I go to God and I go, help me want to do things your way. Because sometimes in my heart I don't. And I do it because I know that I love God. And I know who he is. And because we have this relationship that's been built over time, I'm going, okay, man, I am only doing this for you because I wouldn't do this for anybody else. And I move along because I know he's who he is. And there's times I have to go to God and I say, God, I need help to even want to do it your way. God's not surprised by any of that. God knows you and I better than anyone. Take it immediately to him. And instead of wondering where God is, you might find out exactly where he is. Thank you so much for being a part of Bay West today. I appreciate you tuning in with us. Remember, parents, if you're not a part of our Facebook Life group for Bay West Kids Zone, for our Kids Zone, just search Bay West Kids Zone on Facebook, and you can get into that group. We've got some great materials to help you. If you're not part of a life group, please do that. If you made a decision today to follow Christ or you want more information, maybe you want some help to process this journey, man. Hey, click on the connection card link and you can put in a prayer request. Maybe there's something that's really burdening you. You put that. We have people that pray every week for prayer requests that come in. Do not miss that. Click the connection card link and put in a prayer request. Or, maybe you want to follow Christ. You can also click on that. When you click on that link, there's a place to say, hey, I'd like to follow Christ. Or maybe today you said, I want to start following Christ right now. Put in your information. Click that link. We will get up with you because we want to help you along that journey. And don't miss next week. If you skip next week and come back for the good stuff in 3, you're going to cheat yourself. Because next week is the setup for worshiping God. So let's come back next week, hear about what happened in Habakkuk's story and how it applies to us, and we will see you then. Later.